Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the School of Management Alumni Career Panel. My name is Anna Swartz. I'm the Alumni Liaison at the School of Management. For any students that are viewing, please feel free to put your camera on. We won't call on you, but if you want to have your camera on, go ahead. If you have any questions, you can just type them in the chat box and Alexis will tell your question out loud for you. Okay, so we're going to do some bios for our three alum. We have Amanda Coon is the tax manager at Plante Moran. She holds a BBA and an MBA in accounting from the University of Michigan-Flint. With over 8 years of experience, she specializes in the firm's not-for-profit, higher education, and healthcare tax practices. She has served a diverse range of clients, including hospitals, senior care, colleges and universities, private schools, foundations, and social welfare agencies. Her work experience includes planning, performing, and supervising field work for audit and tax staff, as well as review of Form 990, unrelated business income and foreign filing requirements. In her free time, she is an amateur sports photographer. She spends every Friday evening in the fall on the sidelines, taking photos of a local varsity football team. Craig Gagel is the chief of the business analytics branch of the Office of Survey and Census Analytics in the U.S. Census Bureau. Craig received a BBA with a concentration in accounting, a BA in economics, and Maize and Blue Award from the University of Michigan-Flint, and an MS in business analytics from the George Washington University. He leads a team of 6 data scientists who conduct a variety of operation research and analytic products in support of the Census Bureau's nationwide field operations for household survey data collection. In his free time, he performs improv and serves as special assistant to his pandemic pup, Benny. Andrew Hartman graduated with a BBA in with a finance concentration in 2011 and an MBA in 2016. He began his professional career at Quicken Loans in 2012, starting in closing operations before moving to underwriting. In 2016, he joined FCA, now known as Stellantis, as a financial analyst in supplier risk management. He moved from analyst to project manager and then to program manager. Starting in April 2022, he is a supplier risk management supervisor. When he's not at work, he enjoys taking road trips with his wife and 3 boys. Welcome, everyone. Okay, I'll start with you, Andrew, since I just finished your bio. We're going to start with the first question. Do you have any advice you would like to provide students as they approach graduation and prepare for future careers? You're on mute.
So that's a really good question. Any advice for people that are about to graduate? Don't be afraid to fail. If you try something, a job, and you just don't like it, don't be afraid to try something else, because you don't want to be stuck doing something you don't like for the next 30 to 40 years.
Thank you. Craig?
Yeah, thanks, Anna, and happy to be here. Yeah, I would say, good advice. I totally agree with Andrew. Like, definitely you're going to be new to the field, new opportunities. So, find out what you like and what you don't like through experience. But I'd also say, use the network at UM-Flint. I mean, you can reach out to alumni in a field that you're interested in. I'm sure, like most of us, will be more than happy to fill you in on the details and the ins and outs of our careers and our experiences. And just prepare to look around. And I mean, it's a great job market right now, but sometimes things don't work out the way you think they will, and that's okay, because ultimately you're going to do great and do great things.
Thanks, Craig. Amanda?
Sorry, it keeps muting me even when I push unmute. So I would say kind of the same that they both said, that like, don't be afraid to ask for what you want. Also, when I first started at Plante, they had me on real estate. And by the end of the first year, I'm like, I've picked the wrong path. I hate this. How do I get out of this? And it was literally just a conversation with my partner that was like, hey, this isn't working. I like this over here a little bit better. Can we shift? And it was, I mean, it obviously doesn't happen overnight. Those kinds of changes take time, but don't be afraid to ask for what will make you happy, because you as a happy employee create a better environment for yourself and for whatever you're doing in the business. So like, just be willing to have those conversations with whoever you think is going to make the changes that you need in your profession.
Thank you. Okay, back to you, Andrew. What are some helpful resources you used on campus?
On campus, I used the advisors. Brenda Harris was probably the only reason that I actually graduated with my BBA. So advisors, and then I got into it after graduation, but community outreach. Even as an alumnus, the community outreach is still there for everyone on this call to take part in. And it was some of the most fun I've ever had in my life, was working in alternative spring break and alternative summer break.
Great, thank you. Craig?
Yeah, I'd say probably the best resource for me, I was in school full time, was the rec center. I mean, there's not a better way to take your mind off of things and clear your brain than work out, whether that's a walk or lifting weights or some other form of exercise. But also, yeah, your professors, they have office hours for a reason. It's a great resource to learn more about the field you may be studying, or the particular course that you're enrolled in.
Thank you. Amanda?
Career fairs. It was how I found Plante Moran, because they were always on campus. They were the ones that will put in the effort to be in our classrooms. They would come in and give presentations about what to expect, trying to get through the CPA exam or anything else. And then like through them, I found out about a lot of other things. And it was because of the career fairs. And I wish I had attended more earlier on, because I didn't really start going to them until I was at the very end of my junior year. And what I didn't realize is that you can do multiple internships. I thought you could only do like one. And the people that do more internships, whether they're paid or unpaid, tend to have a better outcome in the career that they pick, just because they get to experience it for 3 to 4 months. And then if they do 2, then they get to actually pick between 2 different options. And not that I'm sad that I ended up at Plante, because I've taken other jobs and quit and come back to Plante, but going to the career fairs was really great. And you know what? Anna's always been a good resource for me too. Whenever I had silly questions about stuff, I could always reach out to her. So I do think that the staff that they have in the office, they know so many things that like you don't even realize. And just going in and talking to them sometimes is really helpful.
Thanks.
Plus, they've been through it.
Yeah, I am the administrative assistant. So yes, students, you can reach out to me for questions. Amanda, I do have a follow-up question. How would you suggest students prepare for a career fair if they've never been to one?
Practice interviewing. So one of the best classes I took at U of M was like, I think it was Communications 338. Please don't quote me on the number. But it's like that English communications class that you have to take towards the BBA. And it's the one that prepares you for the business stuff, the communications, whether it's emails or resumes. But in that class, we would do practice interviews, and we would have people interviewing us and we would interview them. I took that class and then I took it home in those practice sessions, and I'd make my family ask me these questions, because you don't have enough time in the class to really get into those things and to practice it so that your words don't stumble and you sound right. So I would say practice interviewing. And also, if you look at a career fair, it's going to list out every business that's going to be there. If you've got some that you are interested in, I mean, I was really wanting an internship with either Plante Moran, Lewis and Knopp, or E&Y. I did research on all three. I went out to their websites. I read about what they do so that when I went to the career fair, I at least sounded somewhat knowledgeable. I probably still sounded terrible, but at least I had an idea of what they did so that I could ask questions. Because if you go into those and it's just like, here's my resume, and you don't have anything to add, then it's really hard for them to pull that kind of information that they need out of you. When you've got literally, when I go to a career fair, I probably spend 3 minutes with a candidate. And in that 3 minutes, I decide if you're going to go on to the next level of interviews. If that interview is going to land you an intern position, I mean, you've got 3 minutes to impress me that you have what it takes to be a part of the firm. And all of those businesses are the same thing. So if you can show in that 3 minutes that you actually researched the company and that you've practiced these question and answers, you will shine.
Thanks. Andrew, we'll go with you again. Do you have suggestions for resumes, do's and don'ts, and interviewing do's and don'ts?
A resume do and don't. When my team has looked at resumes, the first things that we do, and we sit together as a group and we kind of just pick them apart. And if someone has really poor grammar, poor spelling, that one gets tossed out. That's probably the first thing that we're looking for, is how, because it's your first chance for me to see you. And if you didn't take the time to have proper grammar, proper spelling, how are you going to fit into our team where attention to detail is key? So that's probably the first thing that we're looking for. And then when it comes to the interview, just having a general knowledge of what our company does. We make cars, so just having kind of knowing what we do, having read the job description, so you're kind of prepared for the questions that we're going to ask, about how you can do certain things. It's not rocket science, but I think we sometimes overthink it and try to make it rocket science, and just be yourself.
Thank you. Craig?
Yeah, I would say I agree with Andrew. Just the resume needs to be clear and concise. And for entry-level positions, if it's more than 2 pages, I think it's too much. I think you can capture everything you need within 2 pages. And use white space. You don't want to cram everything in to, make it easy to read for the hiring manager. As far as interviewing, yeah, like Amanda was saying, come prepared, research the company, what they do, and show that you're genuinely interested in the position. And by researching what they do, that's important. And make sure you're creating, capturing those, practicing those behavioral questions where you can explain your experience and provide details on your qualifications. That could be technical, quantitative knowledge, or business acumen. I mean, how the business operates. But I think ultimately, like, communicating effectively is what's going to get you hired. And that's what I look for first, is can you communicate effectively, and can you work with a team effectively? And that will come through in your interview and how well you've prepared for that interaction.
Great. I have a follow-up question, Craig. What are some questions that the interviewee should ask the company when they're in an interview? What are some good questions?
Yeah, I think a great question is, how do you define success in this position? Because that will force the hiring manager to explain what exactly they're looking for, and that can tip you off to whether it's a good fit for you or not. And I think, another good question is, what are the major objectives you have for this position in the first 3 to 6 months, which will kind of inform you of what they expect of you and how that matches well with your interests.
Amanda?
I'd agree. It's about, like, what exactly are the expectations? Am I going to be working as a team? Is this more individual work? Especially in this day and age, you've got to ask about remote, right? What's going on? Am I working from home? Am I working from the office? What are the expectations? Assume at this point that it's going to be a mix. Most companies are saying, if you want to work 1 or 2 days from home, that's usually something that can be worked out, but most places are saying you got to come in, especially as new starts. A lot of the training that we do is always in that first 2 years on the job. So I'm way more effective if I can sit next to you and teach you than if I'm having to do it with one screen where I'm sharing a screen. And I'm really good at teaching online. So just assume that you need to answer or ask those kinds of questions. Where am I going to be working? What are the hours, expectations? How do I succeed at this job? Is it a team environment? Like, what do you want to see out of me at this job?
Thank you. Okay, Andrew, how did U of M-Flint help you prepare for your job in your field?
So the very first part of that cut out, Anna, how did what help prepare me?
How did U of M-Flint help you prepare for your job in field?
Yeah, so the group projects helped because let me take a step back and say a lot of my job is done individually, but a lot of my job is also done as group. We do projects to make enhancements to systems. So that group work at U of M-Flint helped prepare me for that. And then I would say that presenting, doing the presentations that helped prepare me for how to make a presentation deck for executives and got me ready to do that.
Thank you. Craig?
Yeah, I'd say the scope of coursework that's required to complete your BBA was extremely helpful. Like Amanda mentioned, the communications course, the technical courses, operations management, statistics, accounting, it's great, but it also exposes you to the business acumen, how like an organization should function healthily. And I completely agree with Andrew. The number one thing is almost all of my classes had a group project assignment, and you learn those interpersonal skills, and you see what soft skills you have as a strength and what you may need to develop. So I would encourage that yourself to get feedback from your professors on what soft skills you could develop, whether it's critical thinking, the communication side of things, because that's key. I mean, a lot of jobs may be independent in nature, but you're always going to have to work with others and communicate with others.
Amanda?
For me, they taught me how to learn. I always joke actually that the accounting I learned at U of M is so different from what I do in the real world. Nobody talks about how to prepare a 990 for a hospital or how to pry information out of a client that is not exactly helpful. But they did teach me how to do the research that I need to do in my job. So on a daily basis, I mean, honestly, it's amazing how much time I spend like Googling, right? Researching topics, trying to understand IRC code, those kinds of things. And I learned all of that by the things that I had to do to figure out how to complete assignments at U of M. And that's really the biggest takeaway, is that school prepares you for how to fit in out here. It might not give you all of the technical details that you need, but assume that any firm, any organization that you go work for is going to teach you those things. They're going to expect that a lot of that you learn on the job. And that's the really important thing, is that you find an organization that wants to teach you just as much as you learned at school.
Thank you. Andrew, do you have any professional failures you would like to share with us and how you overcame those failures?
Let me think. Okay.
Do you want me to come back to you?
Yeah.
Okay, Craig.
Sure.
Sure, a ton of professional failures. I think my first job out of school was at the Bureau of Economic Analysis, and it was as an economist. It was really like a data analyst, and it was a lot of like independent work, and it wasn't as fast paced enough that I needed. And so I didn't really like it. But ultimately, when I left school, I wanted to go into get my PhD in economics. And so that's like my biggest failure is I did all the work, got accepted. I went to Michigan State. And then within the first semester, I hated it, and I knew I didn't want to do it at all. And so it's 4.5 more years from then. And so I think one of the best decisions I made was to leave school and go back and just accept that loss and that sunk cost of getting there. But a lot of other kind of setbacks happen along the way. But you just got to really kind of take a deep breath and take it in stride and realize things will work out in your career. Just got to be patient.
Amanda?
So this past November, I jumped on board with the Great Resignation and took another job. In fact, my job was with the University of Michigan. I took their tax manager position, and within 6 weeks realized that it was not the job for me. It was not where I wanted to be. It was not. For me, it just wasn't fulfilling. Like I love what I do, and I thought that there was greener fields out there. And the most important thing that I learned from that, because probably within 6 weeks, I was on the phone with my partner being like, I need to come back. Like, what can I do? And she was like, when can you start? Because before leaving, I had made sure that I had not burned any bridges. I had built myself a ramp back to where I was going to be, especially in the business world. You don't ever want to burn bridges. Networking, like you guys really don't understand how important your LinkedIn is. I probably spend 30 minutes a day focused on my LinkedIn, making sure that it's built up, making sure that I have connections, that I'm reaching out to people, that I'm, putting stuff out there. And if you burn those bridges, you really do yourself a disservice. So thankfully, I didn't make that mistake. And I really hope that, that there are other people that got into those kinds of positions this year with the Great Resignation and didn't feel like they had the ability to go back to whatever it was that they actually love.
Andrew?
Yeah, so a couple years ago, my team implemented a change to a system, and 6 months later we found out that it wasn't behaving the way it was supposed to behave, and it was under my I was the project leader for it, but I raised my hand, said, hey, we have a problem, not sure how we're going to fix it, but we're looking into it, and let's move forward. And my leadership, I was worried, they're going to come down on me. No, they were totally like, hey, this happens. You owned it. You're looking for the solution, and we're just going to keep going forward. So my takeaway was, if something goes wrong, own it, and people see that, and they see that you're trying to fix it, and don't be afraid of someone coming down on you for a mistake that was made with all the best intentions.
Thanks, Andrew. Craig, what was your most proud moment from UM-Flint?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. I just really enjoyed my experience altogether. I in the School of Management and the College of Arts and Sciences, just had a really great relationship with the professors and fellow students. And I think, proud moment. I don't know. I was proud to receive the Amazing Blue Award when I graduated. Didn't focus my studies on that or receive it. I didn't really know what it was until my senior year. But just part of that is giving back to your community, and whether that was through volunteering events or helping fellow students with their studies. I just felt like it's an important aspect of the learning process, and proud to be a part of that.
Amanda?
Sorry, it keeps muting me. I don't know why Zoom is mad at me today. So mine is not just U of M, but when I started with Plant, one of the things that they let me do is recruiting. And I do love recruiting because then there were things that in school no one told me. Honestly, getting through the CPA exam is super difficult and it's very complicated. And I wish that someone had come into the class and talked about that. And when Plant did, it like changed my life. So I always feel like I'm giving back by doing that. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I started recruiting at the high school level. And so now I go into a couple of the high schools and I do a presentation on the CPA and how to become an accountant at Career Day. And this year, we got our first intern that came all the way through from the high school that I presented at through U of M-Flint, and now they're interning here. And I'm fairly sure at the end of this week, he's going to get a job offer. And to me, that is like this really magical thing because it shows that like just being involved makes a huge difference in somebody's life because it's somebody that may not have gone along the accounting path because they thought that we were all nerds. And maybe I dissuaded them from that. I'm just a little nerd.
Thank you. Andrew? You're still on mute.
Yeah. Mine's kind of twofold. I am extremely proud of the work that I did with all the alternative breaks team between spring break, summer break, the MI breaks, and the service Saturdays. It was extremely fulfilling work that was done. But then personally for me, graduating with my MBA was just this huge sense of accomplishment. My BBA felt like I was doing it for everyone else. My MBA felt like I did it for myself as something that I had wanted to accomplish for a very long time. So it was extremely personally gratifying for myself to be like, I couldn't have done without the support of everyone else, but this was something I did and I did it for myself.
Thank you. Craig, can you describe your typical day? You don't have to answer all these, but do you depend on others for your job? Do you travel much for your job?
Sure. Yeah. Typical day. I review my list of tasks, whether that's, I need to do tech review of some work products for my staff. Project management, that's a major part of my work, moving things along. Administrative duties, there's always something that comes up with staff, and then preparing for meetings. I'm in a lot of meetings, whether that's within my division or with external stakeholders. I review my staff's work and their action items, just like I said, keep things moving along. And it's a lot of coordination with others within my office, my team, and everyone at the Census Bureau. Travel, yeah, depending on others, absolutely. It's 100% of my job as a manager. They're the ones who make me look good. So definitely depend on their hard work. And travel, yeah, the Census Bureau operates throughout the entire United States. We have 6 regional offices in some major cities. So definitely get to visit those regional offices, but also all sorts of other parts of the US. And there's remote Alaska. Our director will go out there, Puerto Rico, Guam. So there's a lot of opportunities, especially with the decennial census, to travel all throughout the US.
Thanks. Amanda?
Well, I do a lot of project managing. The majority of my work is, like I said, on hospitals and universities, but my team is everywhere. So I sit here in the Flint office most of the time, but I've got staff in Auburn Hills, Southfield, Columbus, Ohio, Illinois, and we've got a couple of offices out in Denver. So I've got staff out there. So it's literally being online with them most of the day, trying to make sure that we're working through projects, tax reviewing returns. And then as far as travel goes, so this year I'm presenting at Kakubo, Cabao, and potentially AHLA. Last year I went to DC for a week to present at AHLA, which is American Health Law Association. And then I think this year it's Louisville and St. Louis are the ones that I'm going to. I do have clients that are all over the Midwest. So we've got a health system that I work on that's in Pennsylvania. So I traveled there every once in a while. Most of my work I can do remote, but it depends. Sometimes the client is like, I want to see you face to face. Let's go to dinner. So then I have to go down to Ohio for the day or for a couple of days and spend time schmoozing people and, you know, hanging out in these wonderful restaurants. It's terrible. Wouldn't recommend. But there's a fair amount of travel that I do. We have some assurance people here that, like, before the pandemic hit, I would see them once a year. They would be in Hawaii or out on the West Coast somewhere. You never knew where they were going to be. They traveled so much. And that's the nice thing about if you go the CPA route or, you know, a lot of consulting jobs, you can travel as much or as little as you want, just depending on the organization you end up with and the service industry that you end up working in. So it really kind of depends on you on how much you want to travel.
Thanks. Andrew?
Normal day is mostly meetings, a lot of meetings, and then working through projects and getting presentation decks done and trying to get a couple of financial reviews done here and there. As far as traveling, pre-pandemic, our group didn't travel a ton, but we would go out and visit suppliers occasionally. But for the last 2 years, we've been 100% remote, and travel has been extremely limited within our organization. As far as relying on other people, yeah, absolutely. We couldn't do what we do without the whole team going in the same direction.
Thank you. Craig, can you give the students an example of what to expect, like for an entry-level position, like to interview for one? Like, is there more than one interview, or maybe what you experienced, sort of the process of applying for their first couple jobs, what they can expect?
Sure, and I'm a little bit different because I work for the federal government. So in that case, you'll go to the USA Jobs website, find a job you like, and apply. And they'll have you submit your resume and maybe some other materials, and answer an assessment questionnaire. And it assesses your experience and it compares it to the fit of the job. So that's like a human resources screener. So you want to make sure your resume matches that assessment, those assessment questions, and validates it. And then from there, yeah, if you pass that test and the hiring manager likes your resume, then you'll be called for an interview. And typically, it depends on the position. If there are many hiring managers looking to hire someone, you may get multiple interviews or maybe a panel interview. And that's typically an hour. It's a lot of behavioral questions, especially at the entry level. Explain your experiences. What would you do in this situation? And there may be a technical aspect. For data scientists, they're always going to be, we need to know that you can prove your coding skills. So I may get examples of your experience with coding, statistics, math, and modeling and that sort of thing. And then from there may be a follow-up interview depending on the level of entry. If there are a couple of top qualified candidates, but from there it's a pretty quick process from onboarding.
Thank you. Amanda? We'll go with Andrew while she figures out her mic.
So at Stellantis, entry-level positions, like Craig said, you fill out the application. It takes your resume, and there's a couple of screener questions. If you make it through kind of the initial talent acquisition screening, then you get a first phone call from HR. If they like what they hear, then you get an interview. And right now we have so many positions open that we're doing the panel type interview where you might actually be interviewing for several different openings that you could get slotted into roughly an hour or so for an interview, and a lot of star questions. So tell me about the situation, tell me how you handled it, and what was the result. That's really, really big at Stellantis. When I came through, I had a manager though that didn't follow the procedure, so I got technical questions thrown at me, which was kind of cool. But yeah, for the most part, expect to get those STAR questions.
Thanks. Amanda?
I'm not muting anymore. I've
Yeah,
given
just
up on it.
stay on. Yeah.
Expect a minimum of 3 interviews. Usually the first one that's on campus at a career fair doesn't really count towards those interviews. That's, just kind of a screening of, can you carry on a conversation and make eye contact with me? Those kinds of things. And then, and by the way, that's difficult for a lot of us accountants. We don't do eye contact well. Too much time in between a computer and the screen. So, but then we do usually have an HR screening where they'll look at your resume, give you a call, talk you through, a lot of the basic stuff, the how many hours and those kinds of things. And then you're going to have another interview that's more in-depth with a hiring manager. And then the third interview is usually in the office with a group of us. So we're going to have you in the office with us for anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. These are usually very in-depth. You are seen as like, how do you interact with the team? We're going to have you eat lunch with us and be able to carry on a conversation. And are you going to participate in that, or are you going to shrink off into the corner? So that's where that ability to research things about the organization that you're interviewing with, that kind of stuff comes into play. We're going to ask you, just all kinds of questions. And that one really is the ultimate interview, is the one that's in person. When I had mine, it was easily 6 hours counting lunch, and lunch was about 2 hours of 2 like firm office partners firing questions at me back and forth for about 2 hours. And I literally ate maybe a crouton. So just because it's lunch, don't assume you're eating.
I do have a follow-up question that when I was working the front desk this winter break, so a student asked, he had an interview that he thought went really well. He fit the job well, didn't end up getting the call or anything. And he had asked me if it was appropriate to call that company and ask for feedback on why he didn't get it. Does that ever occur, or do you guys encourage that? Like, can someone call and say, hey?
We do. Generally, we'll hand them off to HR because me as an accountant, I don't always know the right things to say, and I don't want to have it come across incorrectly. But yes, we always give feedback on, like, maybe you're not really actually on the CPA path and you thought that you were, and you need to do a little bit more development there. Or maybe it's that you don't seem to like fit into the team environment, and we're really looking for somebody that needs to fit into this team environment, or we're looking specifically at a position, right? If we're really, right now we're short on tax people. Tax reform hit our industry really hard, and we need more tax than assurance. So if you're coming in really assurance heavy, there's more likely of a chance of you getting a tax job than there is assurance. So, and it depends on your flexibility, but our HR is usually very good about answering those kinds of questions. And there's no harm in asking, because then you go into the next interview more prepared to answer right, not just right for that organization, but to give the kinds of answers that they need to hear from you.
Thanks. Craig, I know you mentioned you have a dog named Benny. How do you practice work-life balance?
Yeah, I mean, things have definitely changed in the pandemic. Although we had very flexible telework options before, I just never enjoyed it and didn't like it. And so, but the pandemic came in, our organization allowed for a very flexible work schedule. We could start as early as 5 a.m., work till 11 p.m. and take breaks throughout the day. And so I was just, as a manager, very supportive of that. And I also took advantage of it myself. Ultimately, and it helped me to like get a dog. I've always wanted to have a dog. And so I'm able to walk him throughout the day. And, like I said, working out helps break up the day as well. And just, like I said, not only for myself, but for my staff, it's very important. We're first and foremost, we're humans, we're going to practice compassionate management. We all have a lot of things going on. It's very difficult times right now. And so just being mindful of that for myself and for my staff and others who I'm working with, it helps to ease the tension and keep that good work-life balance.
Thanks. Andrew?
I've been lucky enough to work for some leaders that have been very gracious to the fact that I have 3 young boys, and they kind of dictate the schedule a little bit. So especially in the last 2 years, it's actually been a bit of a blessing in disguise that I've been able to stay home and be home, so that different appointments that my kids have, I can stay home with the other ones while my wife takes them to their appointments, or being flexible to do my own appointments, whatever it is. And so I've had managers, leaders that really, as long as the work's getting done, they don't really care too much when it gets done. So it's been given me a lot of flexibility to have control over my schedule. As most days I clock out at 5 and I get to be dad for a couple hours, but then after bedtime I might log back in and work for a couple more hours to get some stuff done. So it's all about figuring out what works for each person.
Thank you. Amanda?
In this industry, like accounting, working long hours is pretty much the norm. Right now, I'm probably averaging somewhere between 55 and 60, and that's probably low compared to everybody else out there. So I have to have a hobby. Anna brought it up that I'm a amateur photographer. I spend every Thursday and Friday, and sometimes even other nights out on the sidelines. That gives me something to like work towards, right? If I do this, then I can go hang out where 350-pound linemen run at me full speed, and that's really exciting. So having a hobby helps. So the rest of the year, I am a runner. I have something to do after work. I do have a family, and that's good for me because it does, but a lot of that is also just more responsibility. So I have to have something that I enjoy and makes me not want to work until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And throughout the pandemic, that was really hard because for me, the work just never unpiled. It was always this big pile of work over there and to the side. And when you're working from, a room in your house, it's very hard to shut off. And it was about 6 months in before I realized like we have to do something. And that's when my son and I started playing basketball at like 6 o'clock every night. We would just go play horse because he dribbles really well and I don't dribble. I just fall mainly. So, but we would go play basketball or we'd go walk the dogs and we'd do something to pull me away from this never ending pile of work. And I really encourage, like if it's yoga, if it's ice hockey, whatever it is, go get yourself a hobby and find some enjoyment in that, because otherwise it makes this really hard to do, especially if you don't love it. Thankfully, I love it.
Thank you. Craig, has technology changed your job, or what changes do you see in the future?
Yeah, I think in the realm of analytics and data science, yeah, technology is coming for us. I mean, there's artificial intelligence that's learning to code itself. I mean, you can just type in a plain language a line, how many people live in the US, and it will code itself and find that answer for you. So I see a lot of advancements there. But at the same time, you need humans to interpret the data and take action on it. But with remote working, Microsoft Teams and these video conferences has helped us, collaborate more, as we go into the hybrid work styles. And yeah, we'll see where it goes. I'm hoping some kind of technology eliminates email. So I'm not a big fan of it.
Andrew?
I got pulled away for a quick second. What was the question?
Has technology changed your job, and what changes do you see in the future?
Oh, that's a great question. In auto, it hasn't really changed my job per se, but as we go to electrification of the automobiles, it's changing our supply base, and it's driving a lot of risk management here as we try to decide which suppliers that provide parts for the internal combustion engine, which ones we want to support, which ones are we going to let die, and how do we manage that, because my organization, Stellantis, is known as an OEM. We're really picking winners and losers in electrification and in internal combustion, and it's driving a lot of strategy as we move forward and try to figure out our new world.
Thank you. Amanda?
So I follow the big account, or the big four accountant on Instagram, and they always post funny things. And the other day somebody posted something about how AI is going to take away all of our accounting jobs. And I laughed really hard at that because I'm like, I would love it if somebody could tax review tax returns for me, because that would be amazing. But it's not going to happen because there's so many things out there that like you have to use judgment on, and AI is great. We're using it regularly to improve our auditing process. They are actually using AI now in this audit of the future thing that they've got going on. I don't understand it. I think it's great. Anything that you can do to make the process easier. But in the grand scheme of things, 99% of my job is prying information out of people and having to use context clues to do that. And there is no robot, no technology out there that can do that the way that I do. So while technology has made a ton of things easier, because I can talk to you guys on the same day that I'm going to do a presentation for a private college down in Indiana, it's great because I can be at like 3 different places at once, but there are still things that it's just never going to replace me. So, but if it does, it'd be great.
This is our final question, and then I'll ask you guys to give some sort of like summary advice. But Craig, what advice would you give a student interested in your specific career? I guess, would you suggest internships, or like how Amanda had said, you know, looking into the CPA to actually see what it's like, because they didn't learn in school what a CPA is like, just kind of advice like that.
Yeah, I would say for data science and analytics, there's a ton of information free out there on the web, whether it's like MIT free courses or a data boot camp. You can really immerse yourself into what we really do and see if it's a good fit for you. And also like Kaggle competitions, all of it is out there for free for your taking. And I'd recommend, yeah, if you're interested in it, definitely submerge yourself in that. And understand, you know, it's not all technical. There is there's a human aspect of it where, you know, you need to communicate these results and make management decisions from them. But yeah, that'll be my recommendation for data science.
Thank you. Andrew?
If you have a passion for automobiles, it can be a lot of fun working for an automaker. We do see some really cool stuff. Supplier risk management specifically is really, it never is a dull day. It's always changing. Nothing is ever staying the same. I would say that it's really someone that has a desire for finance or accounting. It's a path for that person. Attention to detail. It's a lot of fun. It's stressful but fun.
Stressful but fun. Amanda?
Okay, a couple things. Intern. Like number one, intern. If it's paid or it's free, whatever, get that experience. I mean, obviously the accounting internships are great because they're paid, and we pay you in food and we pay you in wages, and we're gonna feed you and make you do real world work and all those kinds of things. The other thing is that you really do want to start building your resume. And if you don't have experience, there's an easy way to do it, and that's through community service. So for those of you who live here in Flint, go volunteer for Whaley's. You know, they always need somebody. There's a million organizations out there, all the nonprofits that need volunteers. That counts as experience if you can get out there and do those kinds of things. And there's just easy ways to get that kind of experience on your resume, but it's also not 100% like necessary. It looks good out there and it shows that you're willing to make that effort. But if I look at a resume and you've got good grades and you're doing things at school, I'm not going to hold it against you that you don't have job experience. I'm going to look at you as an individual at that level. Have you tried to intern? Have you, taken the right classes? Have you researched my organization? Are you doing the things that I want to see? So while it's great to have that experience, it's not necessarily required. Don't give up.
Craig, any final advice for the students?
I'm sure. I'd just, realize, and I've taken courses at a lot of different universities, like University of Maryland, U of M Ann Arbor, George Washington, Michigan State. My experience at U of M-Flint was just outstanding in comparison. And so just take advantage of that. Realize, you have great professors who really can focus on the teaching aspect of it and are interested in your learning experience. And just, trust. Don't doubt yourself in your career. So you're going to hit those roadblocks. Like I applied for the Plante Moran internship as a straight A student. I didn't get it, but you just got to move forward. And it was a good thing because ultimately I didn't want to be an accountant. And those closed doors lead to another open road. And just be realistic with your expectations, but be optimistic as well. And good luck.
Thanks, Craig. Andrew?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Craig said there, it's all about not being so set in what you think your path is that you don't let yourself be open to other opportunities. When I graduated, I never thought I was going to work for an automaker. It was never even something I even crossed my mind. And 6 years later, I wouldn't change anything. So yeah, it's don't be afraid to fail, be open to opportunities. Just because the door closed, maybe that wasn't the door for you. And yeah, like you said, good luck.
Thank you.
And go blue.
Go blue.
I would say if you don't have a LinkedIn now, you need one. And by the end of the day, I expect if you do have a LinkedIn, you should send me a request. We should be friends. By the end of the day, I'll probably send one to Craig and Andrew too, if I can find them. It's just how these things work, because the more people you have out there, the more likely you are to find the job that's right for you. I mean, regularly I am posting positions that are available at U of M on my LinkedIn. And it's not just that, I'm also because I'm involved with things like Wheelies and Hurley Foundation and some of the other nonprofits in the area, I post stuff about them too. So the more people that you're connected with, the more likely it is that some little thing is going to come across that seems insignificant to them, but could completely change the course of your career and your path. So I mean, the bigger your spider web, the more likely you are to drag something really big and juicy in.
Can I follow up on what Amanda just said?
Yep.
So 6 years ago, I was looking for a new job, and one of my friends on Facebook posted something about he wasn't taking a job, but he posted some details about it. I got the recruiter's information from him, talked to her. That job wasn't a fit for me, but that's how I wound up at Chrysler. And it was just spur of the moment. A friend posted something about a job, and I looked into it. And so that's how these things happen. It's really weird. But the more people you know, the more people you have advocating for you. And that's really important too. That to have people that work in other places that can advocate for you if you decide to apply for a job there.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our alumni career panel. I'd like to thank Craig, Amanda, and Andrew for joining us today, and for the students that viewed it. And if you have any questions for our alumni, you can reach out to me and I can help you get connected to them. But you guys we're all set. So thank you guys.